And I think you'll find in the next decade, women athletes will finally get the attention that they've deserved for the years, that people will respect us as athletes and not just whether we're good looking and whether it's cute. We're changing.
Being in tennis, we have an amazing, amazing opportunity.
When I played in the 90s, very challenging, and it was more challenging than it needed to be in our own sport.
I've spent a lot of my professional career being the only woman in the room, and you do feel it when you're in a minority.
If you're good enough, you should be there, no matter of the gender.
If you can see it, you can be it. That's why all of us need role models growing up. It helps us to decide who we're going to be, how we're going to be, how good we want to be.
It's incredible how supportive the players are of each other, and the recognition that we play the same sport. We might play it in different ways or different styles, but it's the same and everyone's doing their best.
That's been unheard of. It's the same as Davis Cup for the men.
Once we get into a place and we do well, we attract the other ladies to come and join us.
We have a worldwide platform to make a difference, not only on the court, but what can we do off the court? How can we help equality? How can we help inclusion? How can we help freedom? This world a better place is really important.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you all so much for being here, for taking the time to explore such an important and pressing issue in the sporting world, and frankly, the world. As we heard from Billie Jean King there, being in tennis, we have an amazing opportunity because tennis is so long a role model for other sports in pioneering for equality and inclusion. And today is about the sport taking the microphone, speaking up, and leading the way, hopefully, towards change, and crucially inviting other sports along with us. Because although tennis has organised today's discussion, we know that this has relevance across other sports. The research data commissioned by the ITF tells us that there is a similar appetite for watching men's and women's sports, and that engagement around the women's game is growing. So that's why it's so wonderful to have you all here today, because to be in the company of people that can affect real change, it's such an uplifting thought, and the question is just what, how and why we affect that change, and hopefully we can move that discussion a step further along the road today. Just a quick bit of housekeeping for you on this platform we're using. You should all have received an email explaining the networking breakout tables facility. It's not complicated. It's designed to create an intimate and relaxed environment for everyone. So hopefully you'll all find it useful. You may have noticed the tables in the main room. We'll be having designated breakout and networking sessions this afternoon, so you can have follow-up discussions in private if you wish. To join a table, you just click one of the virtual chairs to enter. You'll be able to see all the delegates from the table, and we do encourage you to keep your cameras on for the conversation if you can. You can join or leave any table at any time, and most tables will have an iSport Connect or an ITF representative present. When it's time for a session or panel, don't worry, you're automatically brought into that session by our team, so there's no need to action anything yourself. And after the panel closes, you'll return to the table you're previously on. And there is a messaging function as well, so throughout the entire event you can also direct message other attendees through the chat function, or you can ask questions via the questions button during panel discussions and speaker sessions. So please do feel free to ask questions today, as we'll have time to put some to all of our speakers. So thank you all once again for being here and for listening. Thank you to the ITF for making today happen and for being brave enough to seize the microphone. Thank you to iSport Connect for creating this platform and making sure that the event, famous last words, goes off without any technical hitch. And a big thank you to the Foundation for Global Sports Development, who's the sponsor for the ITF's Advantage All programme. And last but not least, thank you to BNP Paribas, our event partner today, but also the title sponsor for the Billie Jean King Cup by BNP Paribas, which has playoffs taking place this coming weekend, featuring 16 national teams competing in ties in 8 countries. And on that note, We have some incredible speakers today across our two panels, but who better to kick off this than with the woman who has generously lent her name to the biggest annual international event in women's sport and one of the most inspirational voices for gender equality that the world has ever seen, as well as being a 39-time Grand Slam champion across singles and doubles. Billie Jean King, it is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Catherine. I hope everything's good with you.
Everything is good. I should tell everybody that Billie Jean and I had a chat a few days ago about the discussion today. I said, Billie Jean, are you happy? Are you comfortable with what we'll be talking about? And she interjected and said, I don't want to be comfortable. So you're going to watch half an hour of me trying to make my personal hero feel as uncomfortable as possible.
Well, we have to get to being uncomfortable or get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It's great advice. An easy one for you to start with, Billie Jean, or hopefully, because this week would have been the inaugural Billie Jean King Cup finals. The playoffs are still taking place, as I said, and it will be the first glimpse we get of the tournament under its new title. What does it mean to you for this tournament now to bear your name? And what do you hope it can achieve in your name in terms of change and progress?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to have my name associated with what I know as Federation Cup or Fed Cup. But the thing that I think about is the responsibility that comes with it, but also most importantly, the opportunities. What can we do with this new name? How can we help others? How can we really, really push equality forward? And I know that it's really important to the ITF, but also to the other people here today, non-tennis people. I want to thank them as well, because this is about all of us. This isn't just about tennis, but tennis, we have been the leaders in women's sports, but we all care about women's sports. Even back in the early 70s, we talked about all women's sports and how we're not getting enough media. We're not appreciated. So those are all the things that we have thought about. But I want to thank David Haggerty, the president. I know he doesn't ever like to mention him, but I am going to, because he's really the leader in this Advantage All. And to Katrina Adams, who's the head of the Equality Committee, Gender Equality Committee, and she chairs it. So all these people were just trying like crazy to move it forward. To have the cup in my name is daunting, to be honest. But we're going to make it happen, especially with the young players. I really want to make a difference because they are our future.
You've been campaigning for equality for more than 3 years now. We've had this research commission that the ITF have commissioned, and we've had the findings come out today. What was your response to that research, and how does it compare to what would Billie Jean King in 1973, circa the Battle of the Sexes, what would she have said about a glimpse 50 years into the future? Well,
in that tape that they showed right before, I said, in a decade, I am so off. I am so wrong. I said decades, many decades, because change is very slow. It's like when you read history, you think, oh, wow, things happen really fast. But as you live it, all of us know, every one of us out there know that it goes very, very slow. Change is very, very slow. And in women's sports, with the data that I was looking at, I thought it just reminded me of how slow the progress has been. For instance, we're 40% of the participation in sports and only get 4% of the media. And I thought the findings were really interesting and keep verifying what most of us in women's sports already know. But we've got to change it. And the leaders here today, you can change it because you're in a position of power. And when you have power, you can make change quickly. And also through the years, I was thinking last night that all the male allies that we've had, the men a lot of times are in the position, they really can accelerate. And then the women also that are in powerful decision-making positions can do the same. And you can do it quickly. Like CEOs overnight can change equal pay for equal work, for instance. And we can start making huge change in women's sports if people will just start talking about us. They don't talk about us. The media at 4%, Nobody knows about us because women athletes, just like male athletes, are very interesting people, but they don't know us. And until they know us, people aren't interested.
I wanted to pick up on what you said there about male allies, because I think that's something that will come up a lot. How important is it, in your view, gender equality isn't just seen as a women's issue, that we do have men's buy-in to it, that men don't feel threatened and that they see the benefits to both genders of equality?
Well, it's about people. We're half the population. Don't ignore half the population in the world. Every human being is so important and such a resource. And so we're not using our resources properly. We need to get paid equally in every job. We need these things, and we need to be in more positions of power. We need more women on boards, for instance. We need, 30%. They find when you have 30% women on a board, then the company really prospers. They're finding that we make a difference in the net profit when we're involved. And we need women of color in particular. We need Paralympians. We need the para-athlete. We need everyone in this. And we have to be inclusive. Inclusion, cross-cultural is really important to learn from each other. It's really important that men champion women. And men who have daughters tend to really help more than if they don't. So it's very interesting through the years what I found.
That relationship with the commercial world is really interesting, isn't it? Because market forces is so often an argument that's reverted to justify unequal coverage of women's sport, inequality in general. What role do you think the media play in shaping the demand of its consumers rather than just following it?
Well, if the media would just start talking about us, at 4%, nobody knows who we are. Nobody knows who we are. So it's important that they talk about us, that they know our stories off the court, off the field, out of the swimming pool. They need to know about us as human beings. So it's so important that we continue that fight. But people in power, I would like to ask the people today to step up and be heard, to really show up, stand up, and speak up. Because the people that are on this call, a lot of you have power for change. And think about women all the time, not just the men. And people always argue, well, men, there's more money and there's this. They're first in the marketplace, and generally will support men. And that's how men's sports got started. They had a lot of setbacks too, but nobody noticed them and they didn't care. But when women's sports start and we don't do that well at the beginning, they're the first ones to say, see, we shouldn't support them. Well, they don't know about the long history in men's sports of failures and situations where they just kept going. But for some reason with us, if we don't do well out of the blocks, they just go, oh, see, they don't deserve it. It's not true. If you get money behind it, if you get enthusiasm behind it, we need sponsors to get behind it. But sponsors usually want to give us a lot less because we don't have the audience. We're not going to get, it's the chicken egg thing. We're not going to have the audience if we don't have the investment and the excitement. When we have equal prize money, it's huge. But I did have an athlete call me the other day, and she said, we have a chance to have equal prize money, but we don't, the guys don't do a lot of the extra things like parties, pro-ams, and all these things. And I said to her, we do 5,000 parties and 5,000 pro-ams if we're going to get equal prize money, because that makes news. That is what people listen to. Money talks, and I want women to follow the money. We're taught not to follow. Boys are to follow the money. We're not. I want women to think about money. Money's good. Money equals giving others opportunities, yourself, freedom, mobility, all these things. So I think we need to concentrate on money. We concentrated on money when we started women's professional tennis, and I think it made a huge difference. One of the things with the original 9 back in 1970, it's 51 years now, but when we did what we did, we thought about not just women's tennis, we talked a lot about women's sports. And one of the 3 things that mattered when we started the women's professional tour These are the three things, and they still hold good today, that any girl in this world, if she's good enough, will have a place to compete. Number two, that we would be appreciated for our accomplishments, not only our looks. And number three, to be able to make a living doing what we love to do. And that's really important. But what made the difference is there were 9 of us had signed a $1 contract with Gladys Hellman, who is the publisher of World Tennis Magazine. But Gladys went out and got a sponsor. And the reason it worked is because we had a male ally, Joseph Cullman. And it's the male allies that have the money. They're the CEOs that could make things happen very, very fast. And anybody out there that's listening today, you have the power to do this a lot of times. If you're in the media that are listening now, you have a chance to increase from 4%. Give us 50% and let's see what happens. I guarantee you things will happen fast. They'll happen differently. People will be excited about us. If the media is not excited about us, it's very difficult to get others excited about us. But we have to make us a big deal like you do with the men. You know, I have a younger brother who played 12 years of professional baseball, which is a big deal in the U.S. And it's night and day. He's always said how much easier his life has been than mine. And so we can do this. It's exciting. You know, the women athletes are listening, the moderators, the panelists. This is an opportunity today to push the needle forward for equality.
And maybe not just in sports, because although we're focusing on sport today, this is not an issue. Gender equality is not an issue that's unique to sport. But do you think that sport can play a part in leading the way for the wider society, setting an example? Well,
sports are a microcosm of society. And we have an opportunity to help equality, not just in our sports, but in the world, because we're messengers, we're leaders. We have a platform. We are so fortunate to have a platform. I don't think athletes realize, well, I think the younger ones do because of technology. But this platform has always been here, and we need to use it to make the world a better place. Like I said in the tape, we have this opportunity, and everybody counts because every single person is an influencer. Every single person. Don't ever forget it. You influence yourself. You can influence a friend. You never know how you're going to touch another person's life or how they're going to touch yours. That's why it's important to be alert as we go through life.
So let's look at the concrete things that can be done, what we can achieve. Let's take a decade, as you said, back in the 70s in that clip that we saw, what the world could look like in a decade. What would you like it to look like? What's it realistic for the world to look like for women working in and competing in sport in 10 years' time? Well,
I'd like us to make as much money, that's for sure, as the men. But I must say with Davis Cup and the BJK Cup, we have equal prize money. So we set an example. We want to keep setting an example. And that's what the ITF is trying to do. That's why they're having this conference. That's why they're having people here to listen, to try to keep pushing things forward. But each one of you in your spirit can keep changing it. But what it does is it reflects onto business and in everyday life. If you're a teacher, if you're at work, you need to be able to be making just as much as the male. And what happens in business so much is that when a woman is hired, the boss who's hiring her basically always thinks about her performance up to that time. And they'll always say, well, tell me about what you've done so far. But with a male, when they're talking to a male, they look at him and they say, what is his potential? So I would like people who hire to think about, when you look at a woman or a male or all genders, what kind of potential does this human being have? Because they tend to think of women as performance only. What have we done in the past? Where they think about males in the future. And they need to think about women the same way. We need to be on a level playing field. It's just like here. So I couldn't resist. So I know, like, even the people who are listening in the media, next time they think about it, particularly with technology, no matter what it is, to really try to push out things about women and not about our looks. And generally women, there's a lot more photos of us being injured than the men. They never talk about our strengths. It's talk about our strengths, talk about how strong we are, just like you do with the guys, because that just starts to exude throughout our world. And it also sends a strong message to a child, maybe in Africa. I don't know. You never know. Or somebody in a village. You don't know who you're affecting, but maybe they'll see it, us play. Maybe they'll aspire to want to play a sport. Maybe it'll help them in their daily life, in their home. You never know. Or when they go to school. I mean, look at how tough education is for girls in Africa, just to get an education. So you never know how this might help them and how we can help them. We can also, sports are all over the world. Some sports. Football is, tennis is global, truly global. Although cricket's huge, it's only really a few countries, but they have India, so they get the population. Cricket, we went, Ilana, my partner, went to Australia last year and watched the World Cup of Women's Cricket. And they had 86,000 people. It was right before COVID everything was shut down. And what they did is the men, the governing body of cricket in Australia, said if the women win, they will get equal prize money. And they did win. So this is where men can step up and make a difference in our lives, because they've had, an extra 150 years of work. So it's just not only the court either. It's the officials. It's boards. It just runs through everything, from grassroots all the way up to volunteers, all the way up. I don't know. We've got a long way to go, but we do this, and every generation has to keep pushing.
And how important is goal setting in all of that? Having concrete benchmarks to aim for and to be held accountable against if they're not achieved.
I think that's vital. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you do need a plan. You need a pathway. We need to be welcoming. It's important. Always be hospitable. Always appreciate the human being. Always acknowledge the human being that's in front of you, but to help. But it's jobs. It creates jobs throughout. Like sometimes I'll talk to young people who want to be number one in the world, but they say, I'm going to be. In fact, I may not even make the tour. But I keep saying there's so many jobs in these different sports that you love that you can stay in the rest of your life. I mean, look at you, Catherine, you're in broadcasting. You can be in broadcasting. You can be in any types of communications. You can be an administrator. You can be whatever. I mean, there's just so many jobs, a lines person, an umpire. It's just, but always step up and try to lead. We need more women tournament directors. We need women in powerful positions.
What does leadership look like to you? It's a word that comes up so much throughout everything that you say. It's so often talked about as just such a potent weapon for change. Why is that? And what does leadership really look like? Leadership
is about focusing and developing others. It's really about inspiring others. It's having a vision. If you, as a leader, sometimes that can be a movement as well. But I think a true leader is innovative. They know how to solve problems. They're ethical. I think everything starts with integrity. That they bring people together. This, just like David Haggerty and the ITF, bringing all of us together today. That is true leadership. That's you can do these things. So I always think that it's championing others. I know the only reason I made it was because people in Long Beach, California championed me. And we need access also, and we need free access. I wouldn't have made it if I didn't have the park and rec system. I got to play on the courts for free, but I got free coaching. We need coaching. We need people that'll organize. And thanks to the volunteers that organize too, the parents a lot of times. I just think the question I would ask to each and every one of us, how can we contribute, but what do you want our legacy to be? What do you want it to be? I think if each of us ask ourselves that question before we start the panels today, that might help everyone when they leave, when this is over today, that maybe this will help shape where they're going to go and to think about how they can lead. But just remember, show up, stand up, speak up.
I have time to put a couple of questions to you that have come in from our attendees, Billie Jean, but I have to ask you, given you've just said that, what do you want your legacy to be?
I'm not done yet. I don't know. I think since I was 13 and 2 years old, really, had my epiphany that I realized that tennis, I come from team sports and I love team sports so much. And that's why BJK Cup is so important to me. I came from team sports. I got into tennis. I love doubles more than singles. That I really would like, I thought about my sport that everybody wore white clothes, white shoes, and I asked myself where everybody else was. So I think it's just championing equality. Just continue to do what we're doing right now. But I don't know what my legacy is going to be. Other people can decide that, I guess. I just want to keep things moving forward. I'm running out of time, literally, and I know it, and I don't like it. But I know I really have faith in the younger generations and the Gen Zs, the millennials, and then also the alphas. The alphas are the ones that are going to live their whole lives in the 21st century. They're going to be born in the 21st century, and they're going to be living in the 21st century and probably beyond, because more and more people are going to live to 100. So I just want each and every generation keep moving the ball forward.
There you go. That was my best shot at making you uncomfortable, Billie Jean.
I know. Thank you so much, Catherine.
I have a couple
comfortable at being uncomfortable.
I have a couple of questions for you, really good ones actually, that have come in from our attendees. Jay Stewart asks, do we need more events that include men and women together? Would that be helpful?
Well, you know how much I love team tennis, and I love men and women together equally. We got back in '74. The tennis community's not that receptive to us, but I must say, I think it's huge to be together because I think it shows equality. And when a child comes to watch something, there were men and women together, and that's where I think tennis is fantastic. We have men and women playing at the same event.